Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I'm Ethan, joined remotely this week by Pete, the most valuable Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up today?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
Good, good, good. It is Saturday morning. Not exactly, but close enough. And it is time for our weekly stream or skip segment. So everybody should know the rules, but for first-time listeners, we'll do the courtesy of letting you expand upon what exactly is a stream or skip episode and what we're doing and why we're doing it. So take it away.
Absolutely. So Ethan and I have prepared lists of TV shows for each other to watch. Every week, we randomly assign each other one of those shows. We watch at least 2 episodes, and on that basis, we determine if that show is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
Righto. This week, I shall go first if you don't mind.
No, please go ahead.
I was on Apple TV Plus, and Apple TV Plus, usually we have fantastic quality shows on. So this week, I think we were both pretty excited when I was assigned by you a show simply called Before, starring Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
And also co-starring Rosie Perez and Judith Light. I was thinking as from Who's the Boss?
Right.
Let me go into what is Before. It is a psychological thriller. It's 1 season. Let me give you a breakdown, but I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler that I was not really able to get into this. Billy Crystal is a child psychologist or psychiatrist, I think psychologist. He is living in Manhattan, has kind of a very typical, what you would imagine set up for a child psychologist. His wife, we find out, has passed away and committed suicide. So he's in a bit of a little bit of a dark place. I mean, as a professional, he's not really able to, he's taken some time off from his practice, understandably. He's got like an adult daughter and they're a little bit, not estranged, but keeping their distance, probably because of the death. And he's also seeing a psychologist to kind of talk through his feelings. And of course, it's quite traumatic when your spouse commits suicide. So while he's just kind of, going through the motions in life, he has someone like just knock on his door. And it's this very kind of strange little boy who doesn't speak, doesn't communicate, gives him some drawings. And eventually Billy Crystal like helps the kid, get home. And it seems that he's adopted. And the boy also is very, very emotionally, he's dealing with a lot of things as well. Okay. So he has episodes where he attacks other children, he attacks adults, and he's just been kind of labeled as a bad kid, a kid who's acting out, who's misbehaving, who's got some anger issues or something. No one really has been able to diagnose what's wrong with the kid. Billy Crystal, being a child psychologist, of course, takes an interest in him and feels like some type of kinship with the child. And through kind of talking to the kid and through witnessing some of his episodes, including a very violent stabbing of another child, Billy Crystal thinks that he's got some type of connection to some type of, I don't know, cosmic deity or cosmic thing. And Billy Crystal also seems to be having like some nightmares, and all these nightmares kind of center around not being able to, prevent his wife's suicide, or not being able to see the signs, or not being able to help her. But the child and Billy Crystal seem to be dreaming about some very similar things. Like they dream about something that I would call like a cabin in the woods. They dream about some type of similar, like maybe a bogeyman, for example. What you get from the show is that there's obviously some connection between Billy Crystal and the kid. not like a genetic connection, right? I mean, it's not like he's a long lost son, at least I don't think he is, but somehow they are cosmically in the universe connected, and Billy Crystal is trying to figure this out. The reason I say the show is hard to connect with is that it's very grim. It's very dark. I mean, there's a lot of scenes that are, physically dark, kind of like what we've seen in House of the Dragon,
Yeah.
but also it's very gory. I mean, if you think back to when we saw Sixth Sense like 20, 30 years ago, right?
Right.
That was a little bit of a dark film where, Haley Joel Osment, saw dead people and you saw like some ghouls and skeletons and stuff, right? But it wasn't really like violent. No one was really like attacking anyone. You just kind of like saw them and it was like jump scares and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
This show with Billy Crystal is violent. I mean, I wouldn't call it like a horror movie, but like you see the kid stab another kid in the classroom, you see blood. You see Billy Crystal having like very vivid, uncomfortable dreams, where he sees like his dead wife's, splattered body, for example. He's doing like some, I guess it's kind of self-mutilation.
Who, the kid?
No, like Billy Crystal's doing his own kind of like self-mutilation. Like I hesitate to say that word. It's not like he's cutting himself, but like he'll like see like something on like his eyebrow and he'll pick at it and like suddenly like he's kind of like peeling off like skin and hair
Oh
and
God.
it's
Okay.
just again, it's not really a horror, but it's definitely dark and grisly.
Okay.
And I just wasn't able to connect with it. I don't like, as you know, like horror is a genre that I don't identify with at all.
Yeah.
I don't like all these kind of like splattered bodies. I don't like stabby things. There's zero humor whatsoever. I mean, it doesn't even pretend to be a comedy. There's no comedic, levity at all. It's very dark and it's kind of centered around this mystery of how is Billy Crystal and the kid connected? Are they and to be honest, everything's on the table. There could be alien connection. There could be some type of, I don't know, the world energy connection, some cosmic energy. I don't know. There's everything's on the table, and that's kind of the big mystery. But to me, it's not really a great mystery that I'm like compelled to get to the end of. We know, I mean, after the first or second episode, you know immediately that Billy Crystal and the kids somehow have a connection, right? They have some
Right.
type of, I don't know if I'd call it an emotional connection, but they have some type of like cosmic, psychosomatic, connection where they dream something similar and they can kind of understand each other. And Billy Crystal is a child psychologist, and this kid just showed up in his doorstep unannounced. There's something there. It's just not enough that I really want to get to the bottom of. I feel like it's going to be like all this drama and, like music, but the end when they do the big reveal is going to be like somewhat very disappointing.
Okay.
I just don't feel like it's going to be so amazing that they're going to I don't know. There's just not that many options for something creative here. So I read about it a little bit, and the reviews have been relatively low as well. And generally, I don't like, relying too much on reviews because I know that there's some shows that have great reviews and they're kind of rubbish, and some shows have rubbish reviews and they're impressive. But I think it just kind of shows that I'm not alone in this. Rotten Tomatoes, for example, there's only 32% approval rating, and it's got a
Okay.
5.2 out of 10, which is not great. Metacritic, which is kind of the other one I use, also gives it kind of a weighted score of 46 out of 100. It's just mixed or average reviews. No one's really said anything negative about the cast, the acting, the production value. It's mostly centered around the idea that eh, it's not that really compelling.
Okay.
You've created a story, you've created this whole world, but it's just not something that's super, I guess, engaging to anyone. So I have given this a skip. And, sometimes you and I do a lot of hand wringing saying, oh, I want to give it a strong skip, or maybe someone else will love it. I'm not so sure in this case. I mean, I want to say something nice for Billy Crystal. The kid's fantastic. Rosie Perez has come a long way from, I guess White Men Can't Jump or whatever she was in.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like she's kind of like not the right person for the role of the stepmom, and it just seems like a little bit of a hodgepodge. But the biggest problem to me is that there's clearly a mystery, but it's just not a mystery that I care about.
Right.
And that's why I give it a skip, because however this ends, I absolutely don't care. And I definitely don't care enough to pay for Apple TV Plus only for the show. And I definitely don't care enough to call you up or my brother up and be like, hey, can I borrow your password? I really need to see like how it ends. I would not use my limited political capital on this. So
Right.
that is Belief, starring Billy Crystal with Rosie Perez. It's on Apple TV Plus. I give it a skip. But if you really, really love psychological thrillers and you thought The Sixth Sense was the best movie in the world and you want to see a miniseries that has a similar angle, then I would say that Belief may be up your alley. But apart from that, skip and find something better to spend your time on.
Yikes. Okay, so that's Before on Apple TV Plus.
Yep.
So let's then take Sharp Left.
Sharp Left. Yeah.
I had to watch a show called The Agency.
You're welcome.
On Paramount Plus. That's right. It is also a thriller, but it is not a psychological thriller or a horror thriller. It's a more traditional espionage thriller.
Yep.
And it stars Michael Fassbender, Jodie Turner-Smith, Jeffrey Wright, and in a surprise twist I didn't see coming, Richard Gere, who I haven't seen
Richard Gere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, first of all, let's get this out of the way. This is a must subscribe immediately.
You're welcome.
This is a fantastic show.
Yeah.
First, let's talk about the premise. The premise is that Michael Fassbender is a non-official cover for the CIA. That means that he is a spy operating in a foreign country without anyone knowing that he works for a U.S. federal agency of any kind.
Yeah. He's a proverbial English teacher in Africa.
Correct. In this case, quite literally.
Yeah. And now I think it's safe to say, if you ever come across an English teacher in Africa, be wary.
Especially if they're as good looking as Michael Fassbender.
Be wary. They are more likely than not, probably not focused on English as a second language.
Right. Right. So he plays a knock who's sent back to London. He's based out of the London CIA office.
So he's undercover for like over a year, right?
Yeah, exactly. And in that year, he, of course, builds up a relationship with Jodie Turner-Smith, who plays some kind of professor at the local university. They have an illicit / torrid / very sexy affair.
Ooh, torrid.
And he has to break it off because he's called back. And of course, there is a little bit of friction between him and the CIA because it was a very sudden thing. He's literally called in overnight. And then it's about the first few episodes are about him settling back into the routine of being a CIA case officer in the UK. Mm-hmm. And one of his assignments is that he becomes a mentor for a new recruit at the CIA who isn't a traditional CIA agent, but is in fact someone that they've turned to become an asset for them. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the B plot of the series, which will eventually become, I'm sure, the A plot in the second season. And by God, I hope there is a second season.
Yes,
the A plot is about CIA operative who's gone missing in Belarus, and they're trying to get him back. And Michael Fassbender is recruited to help find out what's going on. It's a very convoluted plot, and then of course the third plot is that his love interest from Ethiopia comes back to London. She's there under a different guise, and it turns out that she too isn't a spy, but she's doing some kind of government mission for the government of Ethiopia. And it involves the Chinese. So he has to infiltrate that and figure out what's going on there. It's very convoluted, but not in a bad way.
No. And in fact, I think that you and I watch so many shows and we say like, okay, well, the A plot is pretty easy to understand. It's predictable. We know where it's going. And the B plot involves a love affair or a kid or something. We're like, it just isn't dynamic enough to kind of keep our interest, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the shows that we usually like, whether it's Yellowstone or Silo, for example, those shows are usually loved by us because there's a lot going on. And even though we can label the plots ABC and so forth, it's not necessarily clear which is always front and center.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the nice things about the agency is that there is a lot going on. There's kind of the short term, there's a long term, there's the past stuff. There's a lot of characters that we've been introduced to that we really, kind of start to get to know. And I think it's refreshing to have a show that is not only focused on the main character and their day-to-day stuff, that it's a little bit more diversified, and that keeps it fresh, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it treats you like an intelligent viewer. So they're not hand-holding you, they're not simplifying plots. It's up to you to pay attention and really understand what's going on. And I appreciate. I really don't like, that Mission Impossible style. Oh, well, it's going in my left jacket pocket. Has she put it in the right jacket pocket? No, it's supposed to be in the left jacket pocket. That kind of nonsense, it's not there. So I really like that.
What's more is that we're also used to, whenever you see particularly spy thrillers like this, usually the stakes are very, very high, right? It's usually about now the big thing is there's some cipher, and with that cipher, they can access any electronic thing in the world, right? And you can't fall into bad hands, and there's going to be an auction and so forth. This one's a little bit more, I don't want to say close to home, but it's a little bit more realistic, which is, hey, the Chinese are involved in, it seems as though they're negotiating a treaty with Ethiopia where they would basically acquire a lot of their infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not world changing. I mean, it may be country changing for Ethiopia, but the US, intelligence agency is like, hey, wait a second. We need to know what's going on here. We want to be a part of this. That's a more localized and I think realistic, like that's kind of the day-to-day business of the CIA, I would think.
Yeah, it's very plausible.
Yes. It's not always we need a sniper to take out this person because they've got this, encrypted drive and so on and so forth. It's a little bit more localized. And to everyone else, the stakes are big, right? I mean, they've got to make this work or not work, but at least in this way, it's not like you're going to see like crazy open gunfire in the streets, and like it's more realistic, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really like about this is that because it's a very grounded, realistic show, and because there are no or very few like crazy action sequences. I mean, I think one of the most exciting things that's happened in the first few episodes is a drunken driver trying to escape in a police chase. And it's so quick. It's like it can't be more than 10 seconds. And it's a very simple thing. There's no crazy over the top action.
Yes. And he gets pulled over, which is to be honest, how almost the vast majority of chases end, right? It's not the Jason Bourne type, I've
Yeah.
outrun, the whole squad of police. I've driven backwards and downstairs or upstairs or through alleys. It's like, hey, I started to speed. I tried to get away, and you know what? They cut me off, and that's the end of it because, oh, by the way, we're in a city,
Yeah.
and I just don't have the benefit of, driving amok.
Right.
So
Exactly.
realistic.
So, in that regard, the production value is as you would expect. It's fantastic. It feels like you're
Mm,
watching a movie. It feels very realistic. I will say this is one of the few shows where I noticed the music because the music is super tense.
mm.
And most of the time, even if you don't know what the show is about, in the first few episodes, you know that it's a thriller because the music just kind of hooks you. It
Yep.
feels like something big is going to happen, even though in the grand scheme of things, again, it's not that big. I mean, I don't want to downplay it to say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like you hear about China signing deals for infrastructure projects across Africa all the time today. It doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it clearly is a big deal, right? Big enough that
Yeah.
the CIA would want to get involved. And that's probably true. Again, we're hammering on
Yeah.
that point. It's not a Mission Impossible style mission. It's
Yeah.
a very standard. This is what I think the CIA actually spends its time doing.
I agree with that. And I also agree that you see some good office politics here.
Oh
Remember,
yeah.
Dominic West makes an appearance, and I'm not going to comment. By commenting, I'm not going to comment on the fact that Dominic West, a Brit, plays the CIA officer in the US, whereas Richard Gere, an American, plays the CIA officer in UK.
Yeah.
Not commenting. But I think that you see like what is true office politics, right? Which is the guy says, hey, get this done, fix this. You're not performing. I need you to drop this. I need you to do this. It's not like Slow Horses where everything is just like bonkers and so over the top. This is more realistic kind of office politics. You see Jeffrey Wright. Remember, his wife's brother is undercover somewhere,
Yeah.
and you see Jeffrey Wright kind of breaking protocol, saying, "Look, I know this is supposed to be confidential and I shouldn't know, but like it's my brother's wife. Can't you tell me kind of something?" And you
Yeah.
see the sincere office politics, which I really imagined is real, which is in an office, of course, you've got relationships with people, and people always kind of, there's some office favors and some office gossip and stuff, but
Yeah.
you really see the dynamics, which is Jeffrey, I know it's your brother-in-law. We can't tell you anything about this mission. You can't look into it. You can't know.
My favorite part of this office politics, though, was the
Yeah.
fact that Richard Gere is nickel and diming for
Yeah.
$500,000, for $100,000. And he says, "Hey, listen, we're answerable to senators. I don't have this kind of money in the budget." And I think it's hilarious, right? Because you're thinking of like the most economically
Yeah.
powerful country in the world is worried about spending $100,000 to extract a guy from a mission in Ukraine. And they're just like, how do we justify that?
Yeah.
I find that absolutely hysterical, right? Because in all the movies we've seen, money is never brought
Yeah.
up, right? The actual practical cost of these
Yeah.
missions is never brought up in here. And they're just like, hey, listen, this is a thing, right? I have a budget appropriations committee
Yeah.
meeting to go to. I have to justify these numbers.
I mean, I thought it was a little bit refreshing as well. I mean, I'm not sure, we have no idea if that's actually how it goes, but I agree with the principle, which is okay, we've got to get this guy out. We need to hire someone to do it. The guy can't say, well, I'll do it for $10 million. And the CIA says, sure, we've got a blank check. We'll pay you $10 million to get the guy out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the line is not 10,000 or 5,000 or 100,000, but I agree that there's always a limit, right? And I kind of like that thing because you see Richard Gere's like, look, we got to get the guy out, but no, I'm not going to pay an outrageous amount, like negotiate it down. Like, let's do it, a little bit, more economically.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually a very perceived realistic event. And it's one of the reasons I think that the world did not need another CIA spy thriller, but if it was going to do one, I like that it did this one. I think this one gave that type of realistic angle on things, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. And that
Mhm.
it does the show in a way that's refreshing because of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because as much as I loved, for example, Black Doves, right,
Mhm.
which is an espionage thriller that's an NGO,
Yeah.
this feels more authentic because obviously it is more authentic. Even though that was also, it didn't feel authentic. It was more fun. It was also fun for different reasons. But
Yeah.
this feels like, yeah, like this is probably what the station chief has to deal with in London every day.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could go on that realistic, kick for quite some time, but I agree. There's something fun about watching, the super soldier, whether it's, Jason Bourne or, the lady in Black Doves. What's her name?
Keira Knightley.
Yeah, Keira Knightley, right? I mean, there's something fun about watching someone who's just so much better at fighting and kicking and punching
Yeah.
and evading. But at some point, it also becomes a little bit, I don't know, dull to watch because no matter how many waves of people come at them, they'll always be able to shoot their way out of it or jump their way out of it or something. This I thought, was a little bit granular. Even when you see like Michael Fassbender, I mean, remember they have like some people kind of tailing him. But again, it's realistic. Like, okay, we can tail the guy, we can follow the guy a little bit, but we cannot always, keep tabs on him. And then the flip side is even if he kind of gets away, we've got a way to kind of, triangulate, where he is. It's not this bonkers thing where they track his phone and they listen in on his, camera and stuff. They, follow him a bit, but it's not like over the top and he's able to escape a bit, but it's not over the top.
Yeah.
So I think the realism and the granularity is what I like. And I also like, we haven't talked about the story much, but Fassbender's in a realistic type situation, which is, hey, you guys sent me on this country, undercover. I had a relationship. I openly reported the relationship. And now you gave me 1 day notice to leave. I had to, break up with a lady. Like that's not easy to do. I'm also a person, and I think that Jeffrey Wright had a really good, you know, speech about this at one point to Fassbender as well, which is it's not easy. That's why we put surveillance on you. What we're making you do as a field agent is not natural as a human being. That's why we give you this level of support. And I guess what's also interesting is that, that Fassbender, Jodie Turner Smith relationship also seems a little bit more dynamic. And you start to question whether he targeted her or
Oh,
she
she
targeted
targeted him.
him,
Yeah.
and I thought that was kind of fun.
And the last thing I'll say, it's one of the few shows where the child isn't as an annoying figure, right? Because there's always that
Yeah.
they always have the children who
Yeah.
somehow get embroiled into this thing. She does, but it's not inorganic. It's very short. It's not a bothersome. She's not a central figure in any of this. I was fine.
I agree. I mean, if there's a subtitle to the films and stuff podcast, it's we're relatively negative on how children are thrust into storylines where they
Yeah,
don't need to be, and also children that act either exceedingly mature or exceedingly immature, for their age and station in life. And Fassbender's daughter, who in this show is called Poppy, is for the most part okay as a teenager who's just trying to reconnect with her dad, knows that he works for the CIA, doesn't really know everything about him, but some stuff. I thought there were a few instances where it went a little bit over the top, but generally, she's not been thrust upon us as a storyline. Like she hasn't been kidnapped or anything. I think it's probably okay the way that it is.
yeah,
But also, to be honest, unnecessary. There's
yeah,
just there's no reason that you need to bring in the ex-wife, the estranged child, all that into the show. The show absolutely stands up on its own feet, without doing that. So I don't know if that's a trope to like humanize Fassbender or if it really is going to be a plot line, but from my perspective, it's wholly unnecessary.
Fair enough. Must subscribe. It's a fantastic show. I don't know what's going on with season 2, but I really hope they continue.
Yep. I love the cast. I love the way that it's filmed. It's just very, very authentic, I would say. And it's really kept my interest. It's a little bit dark. I mean, his apartment is a little bit dark and dingy, to be honest. I mean, there's some scenes that are a little bit could use a little bit more lighting, but generally I thought it's fantastic. And is this on Paramount Plus?
It is on Paramount Plus, yeah.
Okay, my friend. We both said that. I've said Belief is a skip. We both said that The Agency is a must subscribe.
Yeah, before.
What do we have assigned for next week?
All right, so I have high hopes for you. Next week,
Really?
You're watching The Silent Sea on Netflix.
The Silent Sea.
Yeah, it is Korean, if I remember correctly, but it is a sci-fi Korean show based on the moon.
Oh, you had me at sci-fi and the moon.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. So it looked really good. I remember seeing the trailer. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it would be something that would be up your alley.
Okay. I'm definitely in.
I am on Disney Plus or Hulu, again, depending on where you are, watching a show called Culprits.
Oh, it's a heist, my friend. It's a heist.
Oh my God, it's a heist? I'm in.
Yeah. I knew that there was a reason I chose this for you. It's a heist show.
Done and done.
Yeah. So my expectation is that you will quite like this.
All right.
You're welcome. Thank me later. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's good. Pete, read off our YouTube social media creds and we will sign off until next week. Yeah.
All right. Tweet at us at FNS Podcast. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. And as always, the best thing you can do, like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell.
Well said. Pete, appreciate you joining us today. Listeners, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week, this time on the Films and Stuff Podcast. Thanks, all.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ethan.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.